Have you noticed the white lines in the sky on certain days over the Las Vegas area?
Yes, those are normal, aren't they?
No, those white lines in the sky that plume and persist are not normal contrails, they are chemtrails.
So, if they are not contrails, what are chemtrails?
Chemtrails are chemical-laden aerosol trails.
That doesn't sound good.
There is some evidence that the chemicals in the trails are aluminum, barium and strontium, among other things.
Oh, my eyes are glazing over. This sounds like high school chemistry class.
Hang in there with me. I'll make the technical stuff as painless as possible.
You better, my head is starting to hurt.
U.S. government agencies like the Air Force, NASA, NOAA, EPA and the National Weather Service have all used the term persistent contrails to describe the pluming and persisting aerosol trails left by jets as they fly through the sky.
Tell me more about these persistent contrails.
Hang on to your head, here we go. The government alphabet agencies have said that persistent contrails form in the upper atmosphere, primarily 29,000 to 43,000 feet, because the upper atmosphere has a condition called supersaturation over ice. Supersaturation over ice is defined by a combination of low temperature and high humidity. Temperatures at 29,000 to 43,000 feet typically run between -40 degrees Celsius to -62 degrees Celsius. That is very cold, think colder than the top of Mount Everest.
That's cold. I'm starting to get a chill.
And humidity levels have to be at 68% at -40 degrees Celsius to 55% at -62 degrees Celsius for persistent contrails to form. If these conditions are not met, persistent contrails cannot form. Chemically and thermodynamically it is an either-or situation. Either the conditions exist for the formation of persistent contrails or they don't. There's no maybe here. Supersaturation over ice follows the same chemistry as saturated liquids.
Believe it or not, I think I'm getting this.
When a seed is introduced into a saturated liquid, instant precipitation of the dissolved substance occurs. The same thing happens if the seed is water vapor from a jet engine introduced into the supersaturation over ice condition. When this happens, a precipitation of water occurs, it freezes, and a persistent contrail is formed.
So let me get this straight. Under certain conditions, the water vapor from a jet engine can form a persistent contrail when the water vapor from the jet engine causes a precipitation of water from the air that instantly freezes because the temperature is colder than the top of Mount Everest.
Basically, that's it.
But you said the lines in the sky aren't persistent contrails but chemtrails. I'm confused.
No doubt, but there's more. Twice a day, once in the morning and once in the afternoon, from many sites around the U.S., the National Weather Service sends up weather balloons to measure things like temperature and humidity. These balloons record data far above 43,000 feet. The data is called soundings, and if you want to see this data you can go to the University of Wyoming website. So twice a day we know what the temperature and humidity is from 29,000 to 43,000 feet, and the data is very consistent from morning to afternoon. Now guess what?
I'm waiting with bated breath.
The conditions for supersaturation over ice don't exist in the sky over Las Vegas, and therefore persistent contrails cannot form over Las Vegas.
Wow. Now I get it. Those lines in the sky aren't persistent contrails, so they must be something else.
Yes. The pluming and persistent lines in the sky are chemtrails and not persistent contrails. And they plume and persist because of their chemical composition, not because of precipitation of ice from supersaturation over ice.
This shoots the whole theory of persistent contrails down, doesn't it?
Exactly. In an Air Force paper entitled Contrails Facts, the Air Force said that the chemtrail hoax has been investigated and refuted by many established and accredited universities, scientific organizations, and major media publications. Obviously, these organizations didn't look at the soundings data because, as I've proven, persistent contrails are a hoax.
This is a bombshell. The government story about persistent contrails is a complete fabrication.
Yes. And the consequences are enormous. No longer can the government agencies trot out the persistent contrail hoax to explain the chemtrails we see pluming in the sky. They will have to dummy up some more pseudoscience or finally admit chemtrails exist.